front pages now. I'm pleased to say we're joined, as you can see there, by the broadcasters Pete Price and Afua Hagan. Good morning to you both, Afua and Pete. Lovely to have you with us. It's been a while since I spoke to both of you, so nice to see you. I hope you're having a nice Saturday morning. Let's start with the front page of the Daily Telegraph. And Pete, this is your one, and it's a story that, of course, we're covering this morning as well. The arrest warrant issued for Vladimir Putin.
It's a remarkable story, and good morning to you both. I really cannot get my head around this at all. They think the international courts have said that there's war crime arrest is out. The warrant is there for Putin. Allegedly, he's committed these dreadful crimes. They're saying up to 16,000 children have gone missing from Ukraine. And there's been dreadful stories about how they've been taken. And he's now brought a forcible law out saying that Russians should adopt these, because he's saying they are not Ukrainian children, they are Russian children. It is incredible to think that this man is so deluded, but each child, each life, each parent that's had their child stolen, I can't imagine what they're going through. Putin is now banned from 100 countries. He's a pariah. So is Russia until they get rid of him. I don't know what's going to happen when China meets up with them, because they can't ignore this at all, because it is so heinous, this crime. And thank you to Sky for showing that report about the children, because it is awful. It really upsets me. What frightens me most is Putin has got nowhere to go now. So if his back's against the wall, what's he going to do? He's got nothing to lose. I just wish there was a way of us getting to the Russian people to let them know what's really going on with this war and this cruelty to children. This is verging on the Germans. When it happened with the Nazis, it is horrendous. 16,000 children at least. And I don't know where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, and therefore you're not going along to a lot of that. And I think the point that Pete makes there about trying to get through to the Russian people, the difficulty with that as well is that the Russian propaganda machine has been so effective that the Russian people see this completely differently to how the rest of us do.
Absolutely right. You know, the Russian propaganda machine is second to none, and they have put their own spin on so many narratives to do with this war. And, you know, when it comes to the kidnapping of these 16,000 children, like Pete was so rightly saying, some really, really horrendous and heartbreaking stories. But the Russians are selling it, that they're saving these children, that they're saving them from the Ukraine and saving them from Ukrainian dictatorship as well, and you know, bringing them to families that want them, to serve them. You know, you had in your report these Ukrainian children on stage, you know, embracing and thanking this Russian soldier. But when in fact these children are taken, you know, they're told that their mother country is evil, you know, they're treated quite cruelly. And this is happening all across the Ukraine. And it's also something that the Russians have been quite open about, you know, quite blatant about. You have their children's minister meeting with Putin, you know, the children's minister, imagine, meeting with Putin to discuss this further, of how they can quote unquote rescue these children. But in fact, this is a war crime and amounts to genocide, because you're trying to kill off the culture in the next generation.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this progresses, because, of course, he can only be charged when he goes to The Hague, and, of course, he's not likely to leave Russia anytime soon. All right, Afua, let's stick with you now. Let's try and get through a couple of these other front pages, because there are some each front page has a different story. So let's start with The Guardian. And Afua, this is a story that you picked out, and this is a line about the bung that's on offer to try and get NHS doctors to work in the private sector.
Well, yes, essentially, NHS doctors are being offered up to £5,000 in what's called a golden hello from this US-owned company called HCA Healthcare. So they have 30 facilities in London and Manchester. And at the moment, they're offering intensive care doctors £5,000, general practitioner doctors £2,000, and junior doctors £1,000 to switch over and come and work for them, full-time or part-time. And you can understand how this would be very popular, because at the moment, as we very well know, we do have strikes across the NHS. We have GPs, you know, that are really struggling. You know, some of them are working 3.5 days a week and topping that up, working in the private sector, and to top up their wages. And, in the budget, we had measures to try and bring back more senior GPs to be able to cover the gaps that we have in the NHS, because we are losing so many of these doctors. They say that they are overworked and underpaid, and that's where a company like HCA Healthcare can step in. They can offer, these huge benefits to people that join up. The other benefits include access to a private doctor anytime, 50% off the gym and eating out, a pension plan. All these really attractive offers for GPs to go over to the private side, intensive care doctors, junior doctors, and practice healthcare there. And like I said, with the cost of living crisis and GPs being overworked, putting in these long hours, you can understand why they would want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and Pete, just quickly, a thought from you on this, and I suppose it sort of lays out the difficulties in funding for the health service and the lack of cash that goes in to try and make sure that everyone works, not just the ones who are well paid, but as we see, nurses and paramedics get the amount of money that they need so they can live their lives.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm self-employed, so I have private medicine, and some people castigate me for that. Some people say, well, it's great because you're freeing up a bed. But there are people in this country going out to other countries trying to poach staff from medical centres back to England, offering them jobs. So it's a poisonous cycle that goes round and round and round. People are going to go for the best job that they can get without any shadow of a doubt, and it's being highlighted here. We've got problems in the NHS. We need thousands of jobs in the NHS, and these people are moving up because it's more attractive. You can't blame the people, but it is a cycle that goes round and round and round.
Yeah, it needs to be resolved. All right, Pete, let's stick with you. Let's try and crack through a few more of these. Daily Mail front page now, Pete, and this is the news that the passport office workers are going to go out on strike for 5 weeks from the 3rd of April.
Well, it's summer, so you don't expect anything else. I mean, the strikes are getting completely out of hand these days. I'm surprised people do get themselves into a situation where they've got to rush for a passport. I've always checked my passport. I have to go abroad a lot on business, so I need my passport all the time. But they're talking now, I think, 10 weeks. If you need a passport. And by the way, if you haven't got a passport in time for your holiday, you are not covered on insurance. Not all the passport people are going on strike. There are still some people working there, so you still have got a chance. But now, because of this story, people are going to go rushing out to get the passports, and it's going to be even more difficult to get a passport. But I do not understand why people don't top their passports up regularly.
Yeah, some people don't check the passport, do they? I mean, but you do need to keep on top of it because you cannot travel if it's not valid for at least 6 months. Right, let's move on, Afua. Let's look at the front page of the Eye if we can, please, and let's look at this polling that's been done, which said that there was a boost after the budget for Rishi Sunak, but the Tories are still way behind the Labour Party.
Yes, this is some polling that's come out post that spring budget that we just have, and it says that the PM has half the gap with Keir Starmer on their personal poll ratings. So at the moment, Sunak is on a -11, up from -20 last month, and the Labour leader is on 0. The Tories are still 17 points behind the Labour Party, so that means that if there was a general election tomorrow, there would be a landslide. Now, it seems that the budget has been quite popular amongst voters. The most popular bits in the budget that people liked were the fuel duty freeze, energy bill help, and also ending the prepay penalty on of people who have prepay meters in their homes, ending that penalty. But I think the most important one there is still that Tories would face a landslide if we were facing a general election tomorrow. But these polls, we always have to take them with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
How often does that really convert at the polls?
And Pete, just a quick 30-second thought from you on this about Rishi Sunak and his popularity increasing, but it's still a big gap to make up.
Slightly, without any shadow of a doubt. Listen, the Tories have been in an awful long time. Most people will say it's time for a change. He's going to fight and fight. I think he's making more sense than the last couple of leaders they've had.
Competence helps, doesn't it?
Trying to run the country.
Yeah, it does indeed. Right. Yeah, all right, Pete Afworth, thank you very much for that. All right, let's tell you what's coming up in the next hour on Sky News Breakfast as the RMT union continues the strike action day. More misery on the railways for passengers.